April is here, and that means National Poetry Month. But if you think poetry means you have to teach only rhyming couplets and forced metaphors, not this year. In today's episode, I'm sharing 3 creative, low-prep poetry ideas that spark student voice, build SEL skills, and actually get kids excited to write. These ideas may just lead to a big classroom win without the pressure of perfect poems. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. Thanks to all my listeners who have been writing reviews for this podcast. I truly love reading each and every one of them. There was one that really resonated for this episode, and I just had to share it. It comes from Ed's HCNXFVV, gotta love those names, and he titled it, So Good. And it says, April is a time when teachers need that pick-me-up motivation to end the year well and strong. Elizabeth's podcast brings new ideas and strategies to help teachers love being in the classroom again, and especially in April. It's so true, right? April, we're at this last push before the end of the school year, and we need to keep on going. And I really think that this episode is going to help you do just that. Thank you so much, Ed, for your awesome review. And I want to encourage you to share a review as well. It really lights up my day, and it really pushes this podcast to be able to be heard by more and more teachers. I remember back when I was getting my master's in arts and learning, and I took a poetry class that just opened my mind way up to all the possibilities that poetry can really have. Until that point, I had considered poetry was simply about meter and rhythm and rhyme. And I gotta tell you, as a musician, I can really appreciate a good poem with a good rhythm. But it was so freeing and fun to try out all these different kinds of poems that stretched my ideas around poetry creation. And when I started taking those ideas back to my classroom, the kids loved it too. Now, you may be considering a poetry project for your classroom, so today I wanted to share 3 fun and creative ideas that you can do with really easy. And the first one is something that I did just the other day with some 3rd graders and also 4th graders. It's called Dada poetry. It is always a winner inside my classrooms. Dada poetry was first written by artists and poets in Paris. What they would do is they would clip words from newspapers, scramble them, and then arrange them in lines to form nonsense poems. And you can do the same thing with your students. It's really pretty fun. So all you do is just that. You can cut out words from magazines or newspapers, or even from like a random leftover essay that is in the recycling bin. Just let the kids cut out all the words, toss them into a bag, throw them on the desk, mix them up, and have the students pull out 10 to 15 words, and then they can start arranging them into a quote-unquote poem on their desk. No editing, no need to truly make it make sense. The beauty is in the randomness. And what I love about Dada poetry is, as nonsensical as it is, you just naturally start to arrange words into something that creates a little bit of meaning behind it. It's really kind of fun. Now, what I did in my class the other day is I used a song called April Showers. I used the version that is sung by Bing Crosby because they actually can relate to Bing Crosby from his songs during Christmas time that they usually hear during Christmas time. And so we listened to the song April Showers, and then I gave each student a copied paper where I wrote the lyrics to April Showers one word at a time inside these little boxes that they then cut out. So they had all the lyrics to the song April Showers. Once they were done cutting them all out, I asked them to just pinch a little pile of the words, put them separately, and start arranging them into some kind of poem. And they came out so fun. And then we took those little paper words and glued them onto a piece of construction paper, and then they could like design and decorate the rest of the paper. Here are a couple of examples that my students came up with. Okay, here's one. This is by Melania. She wrote, "Bird songs keep the daffodils blue, and violets come along looking for you." I mean, she even put some rhyme and rhythm to it. That's something that they'll tend to do, is they'll try to like make sentences at first too. And so it's a fun way to kind of break them of that habit of thinking that poems need to go across from left to right, like starting at the margin and ending at the margin. And then just like they make the words into an array, if that makes sense. And it's a great way for them to understand how poetry can be broken up a little differently because it's different than prose. Here's another example, and this is by a girl named Sailor, and she wrote, "Regrets. It's because you know it's raining showers, that April rain in your daffodils, though it's the way they bloom." And I love encouraging the kids to take their poems and stand at the front of the classroom and read it really dramatically. And then, you know, a lot of teachers love to do this where they, instead of clapping for each other, they'll snap for each other. It's just really a kind of a fun thing to do. And for me, teaching in Massachusetts, you know, our April vacation is coming up soon. So this is a wonderful activity to do with your students right before your spring break. Now, I told you that there were some SEL tie-ins with this, right? Because you know how much I love addressing those SEL skills through SEAL, social, emotional, artistic learning. And this certainly is an art form of creating poetry. Now, what you are doing when you're creating Dada poetry is you're helping the students to understand what it can mean to let yourself go and really trust the creative process. That sense of letting go can be so hard for certain students. They just want everything to be really, really perfect. And this exercise can really help them to do some creative risk-taking, to accept some imperfections, which is part of life and a skill that can be practiced through Dada poetry. All right, here's the second idea, and this is poetry that's inspired by music. I've been doing this type of activity for, oh my gosh, well, decades. But this is such a great one because it allows students to actively listen to music and then create a poem that's inspired by that music. Now, here's my method or my way of making this happen so that students aren't, you know, overwhelmed by this idea of creating a poem out of nowhere, you know, out of a song, but kind of like out of nowhere, and just having to really think and breaking their thinking that it has to be perfect, that it has to rhyme, that it has to have some meter to it. So to be a little bit more creative that way. So the first thing is to have a short piece of music ready to go. I prefer instrumental music because it can just help the students kind of focus in on the music aspects, not necessarily the lyrics. So pick a short piece, 2 to 3 minutes at tops, or if you have a longer piece of music, maybe just an excerpt, like the beginning of a classical piece that has just like a natural finishing point to it. And you can use classical, you can use jazz, you can even use nature sounds. There are some great nature sounding tracks that you can find on YouTube and probably on Spotify too. It's really about anything that evokes some kind of feeling, right? And so what I'll do is I'll leave the titles out, I'll leave the lyrics out, and just have the music there so that students can really just focus on listening and getting their own interpretation. And then what I'll do is I'll have the students, after they've listened once, I'll have them take a moment and write down any words or phrases that come to mind as they're listening. They can also do a couple of quick sketches that come to mind as they're listening. And what will happen is they'll have kind of a random list of words and phrases and sketches that they can pull from and use those ideas to start coming up with a poem. Okay, so let me share a couple of examples. And these examples are coming from when I was doing this as a music teacher, teaching 6th and 7th graders. And these examples actually come out of my book called Inspired by Listening, which is all about how to use active listening experiences in your classroom to really focus on literacy and creativity and all kinds of standards that you have in your ELA programs. All right, so here's an example. This is done after a student was listening to the William Tell Overture. And here it is, ready? Quick notes build the excitement, galloping across time, strong bursts of sound, exploding through my ears like fireworks. And one of the things we did with that poem is not only did we listen to the music, but I asked them when they were writing down their words and phrases, I asked them to focus on different parts of speech that they were learning in their ELA class. Here's another poem. This one gets me every time. It's by a 7th grader, and it's inspired by a short prelude by Chopin. And I'll put the link to this specific prelude in the show notes. I might even make a little playlist of great songs that you can use to inspire some poetry. But here's her amazing poem. And for some reason, it also happens to do with rain. So here it is. It's actually titled Rain. Yelling, screaming, loud, dark clouds, rain. Life is hard to maintain when you're alone, dancing in the rain. Sadness, madness, rain, the pain. It's irresistible. Doesn't that just get you right there? What I absolutely love about poetry and tying music into it is that it really helps students to really dig into the human emotion, right? Here's the SEL tie-in. It can build some self-awareness. It gives them an outlet to really be creative and share some of their emotions. And some of the poetry that comes out of these students is just so beautiful and meaningful. And what an amazing gift we can give our students, the ability to really express themselves with poetry. Okay, so here's the third idea, and this we'll call mirror me poetry. Okay, it's where you're going to give your students a very simple prompt to finish. I am. So basically like a sentence starter, and then have them repeat that I am 5 times. So I am this, I am this, I am this 5 times, and come up with this little poem that speaks to who they are. A great self-awareness activity. But you can also do it a little differently. And this is how I did it just the other day with a group of 5th graders. And so what I had them do is I had them finish these 5 sentence starters. I am, I feel, I dream, I remember, and then finishing off again with I am. And here's an example of one of the poems that was written. Okay, ready? I am tired. I feel relaxed. I dream of warm chocolate chip cookies. I remember eating them with my mom. I am happy. Isn't that so sweet? I'm telling you, the poems that can come out of your students when you give them these creative, free-form frameworks is just so amazing. And I really, really hope that you are able to try this with your students. And I'll tell you honestly, if you really were crunched for time, that could be a short 15-minute activity and just have it be something, fun and reflective that you can do at the end of class or at the end of the day or even as a beginning warm-up. What could also be kind of cool is if you took a poem like this and had the students actually record these as audio poems. That would be a really cool thing to have in a listening station, or be able to send home the MP3s of them reading these beautiful little snapshots of their lives right now. So what's the SEL tie-in with this? Well, really, it's about self-awareness and being able to reflect on yourself, right? It's a mirroring kind of poem. But it also promotes some positive thinking, and it can even build students' confidence. When you're able to really reflect on yourself and reflect on who you are and even, your past experiences and how you've grown, which honestly is kind of secretly what this poem kind of does, it can really help students to build their confidence in who they are and where they've been and how they've grown. Isn't it amazing how poetry and the arts can really do so many things for you as you're creating? It really can blow my mind sometimes. And I love watching students figure these things out about themselves as they're creating. It's really beautiful. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one of these poetry ideas and try it. Try it sometime this month. Seriously. Just one, maybe all of them. And then I would love for you to share inside the Inspiring Teachers Facebook group. This is a space where we share wins, where we swap ideas and support each other through all the ups and downs of teaching. So do one of these activities, take a photo or jot a little reflection, and come into our Inspiring Teachers Facebook group and share that. Let us celebrate and support each other, all right? I can't wait to see the inspiring poetry that you and your students create. And by the way, I'll leave that link in the show notes so that you can come on over and join us inside the Inspiring Teachers Facebook group. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.